Good morning and welcome to the upper deck. I'm Lynn, there's Ciarra, and we got so much to go through today, so let's just get rolling. So let's just go right to our hot topics, and I think this whole show is going to be a hot topic. But Ciarra, let's talk about our our usual guys to start with, and what our thoughts were about this spring training and then leading into opening day.
Yeah, well, first of all, good morning. Happy Sunday. I hope it's nicer in New York, New Jersey than it is here. Yesterday it was 65 and sunny. Today it is snowing. So welcome to the Midwest. And Friday we had tornadoes. So, that's just how it is.
Crazy.
Yeah. But you know what else is crazy? Baseball is back. Opening day, technically for us, is in 11 days. But the Tokyo series does start Tuesday, so technically baseball will be back Tuesday.
Oh.
So when I'm awake at 1 o'clock in the morning tweeting about baseball, just know that that's why. But anyway, I'm super pumped for opening day. With that being said, I've always been Carlos Rodon's biggest critic, have been for a long time, will continue to be his biggest critic. However, I'm excited to see what he can do on opening day. I think that he has earned this. I know a lot of people thought that it was going to be Max Fried because he's our ace right now with Cole being down. And, that makes sense, whatever. But Rodon, as much as I critique him, he looked really good for most of last season. So I think he earned this spot for opening day. And I think that bearded Rodon is going to have a resurgence. And I think that beard is going to bring him like that power that he needs. It'll take the pressure off his back, because he always has that bad back. And he's going to look good on opening day. And I'm happy for everyone who gets to see it because I think it'll be a very good game for him.
Well, I have to admit, when I saw that news, I, did the facepalm thing. But I also think that this is like the kid in the class that's always number 2, and the teacher finally says, "You're going to lead this project," and then they ace it, no pun intended. And I feel like this probably already is such a boost for Rodon, that he's going to be in that Rodon zone that we love to see, that we don't see enough of. So I'm back. I'm in your camp. I wasn't really in that camp for a few days, but I'm with you on that for sure. I think we'll see that. I just got back from the mountains and I got myself together, Rodon, on March 27th.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention, Fried is going in game 2, so it's not really that much of a difference. I think Yankee Stadium will be electric opening day. I know that ticket sales are supposedly down compared to last season. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think that the media is really pushing this narrative that Yankees fans are down bad. But I think we're going to show up, and I think Yankee Stadium will be extremely loud. Rodon's going to have the whole fan base behind him. And, if it's a close game, we have the best setup and closer combo in baseball, and nobody can convince me otherwise. Weaver followed by Williams. You can't convince me that there's anyone better out there right now. Not that I want it to be a close game because obviously I want to win opening day, but if it comes down to it, I am excited to see the two of them go back to back.
Oh, yeah.
Just because I know that, the airbender, he's going to look damn good in those pinstripes.
Spring training airbender has been lights out. So I'm really, I have high hopes and expectations and anticipation to see that happen. And I think I said this on an earlier show, but I'll say it now. My first jersey purchase for a jersey is going to be Bellinger, because, talk about a two-sided player. This guy has everything, and is my favorite thing that was done in the off season. So I think Bellinger is really going to, when we see him in the Bronx, it's going to be like a whole other level of what we saw in spring training.
Yeah, I'm going to just drop a hot take right now. I think that we're getting 2019 MVP Cody Bellinger this season. So if we can get that performance followed by, along with MVP caliber Aaron Judge, I don't care what anyone says. Losing Soto doesn't mean anything at that point, because Cody Bellinger looks phenomenal right now in spring training. And it's not just home runs. he is situationally hitting. He's pulling the ball. He's hitting singles, doubles. He's the only thing I don't expect Cody Bellinger to do is steal bases because I think he's only ever stolen like 6 in his entire career, like in one season. But I'm looking for 2019 MVP caliber Cody Bellinger, and I'm with you. I'm getting his jersey. I've already bought one jersey this off season, which was number 22 because it was on like a super duper sale and it was like $65. So whoever wears that number this season, please do not let me down, okay? Because that's what I'm rocking with.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be a big one. We got to be very careful with that number, and for Ciarra's sake. And the last thing I want Bellinger to do is anything else beyond what he's doing, because the way I don't want him on this hot trend in the team of this IL thing. So let him just do what he's doing and nothing else, because we need him like that all 162 games and beyond.
Yeah, I just knocked on wood because I don't even want that out in the world right now. Because also his defense, like that glove out there, couldn't ask for anything more from the guy. Like he is putting on a show for us. Probably, and you said it, probably my favorite move as well in the offseason outside of Devin Williams.
Yeah. And so Sean Browning saying hot take that Bellinger, Goldie, Judge, MVP caliber this season.
I mean, Goldie he's impressing me. Last week, I can't remember what game it was, but there was a fan heckling him. And I heard the guy, because sometimes you can hear these fans really loudly through the broadcast. And he was like, easy out. And Goldie hit a home run. Like, shout out to Goldie, because I know he's coming off of like his worst season ever, like historically with stats. And not even that it was horrible, right? He still put up better numbers than a lot of guys in the league, but compared to what he's done in the past, it was his worst. So I think he has a lot to prove this season, to not just to the fan base, but to himself. But I'm excited either way because we have a Gold Glover at first base. I know I love Anthony Rizzo. He was a Gold Glover as well. But those last 2 seasons with, scrambled brains weren't that great. So I'm excited to see Goldie at first with that Gold Glove, especially to help out our young shortstop Anthony Volpe when he makes some throwing errors.
Oh, you gave me the perfect segue. So, Anthony needs to tighten up defensively. Actually, both sides, but the defensive blunders. And yes, let me just say it before anyone else watching does. I'm aware it's spring training. I know what spring training means, but the stupid stuff we're seeing, we saw during the season. And so low key, as the kids would say, low key, concerned. I get to say the kids because I'm far from one, but I'm going to be cool and say low key. I'm sorry, you had this first season stellar. You came in the presumptive golden, god, to come and save the team. And we've seen nothing like it since. So time for him to up his game. That's my hot drop about Volpe. I know he's beloved. I know I might get excommunicated, but he needs to prove that he's an ace again. Give us that first year Volpe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go the opposite. I was really hard on Volpe last season, especially since his rookie season, he did win a Gold Glove. I'm going to chalk this up to its spring training. He's got some rust, and I think he'll be okay. I've done some soul searching this spring training, and I've come to the realization that the two roles in New York for the New York Yankees that are always going to get the most scrutiny will be shortstop and closer, right? Because I mean, look at the guys that you're following up. You're looking at Derek Jeter and you're looking at Mariano Rivera. So no matter who we put there, and that's why looking back at the season that IKF played shortstop, I feel so bad for the guy. Like that was never fair to him. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
those two roles are like impossible to fill for the New York Yankees. As long as Volpe figures it out in the regular season, I think he'll be okay. I also looked at errors from 2024, and all of the top guys were shortstops. You had Gunnar Henderson, you had Ellie De La Cruz. So I thought that was interesting. Why are the shortstops committing so many errors compared to everybody else?
Right. And, admittedly, their position puts them like right on the bubble for, those hits that, go right to them and they get a bad hop on it. Their position's just built for that. So that's as gratuitous as I'll be about it. But it's a difficult position, and some things you're just going to miss, and maybe shouldn't get as mad about or as annoyed about as I do. So I'm glad that you're balancing the equation. That's what partners do. What do you think about Judge?
That guy.
Yeah.
So I think the issue with Judge right now. So let me just say, like, Judge never performs well in spring training. Not that we need him to, right? We need Judge to do what he does in the regular season. However, he is coming off of a really, really bad postseason performance. And until he starts performing like 2024 MVP Aaron Judge, I feel like there's going to be this narrative and just scrutiny around him. But once he starts hitting home runs every night, everybody's going to forget about that. You know what I mean? Like, until we get to next postseason, I think that'll all go away because we are as a fan base, we are incredibly lucky to be able to see what Aaron Judge does day in and day out. And the fact that so his projections are like a few home runs less than last season. And the fact that people consider that a down year, like, we are spoiled with Aaron Judge.
Right.
And I don't typically call Yankees fans spoiled, but when it comes to Aaron Judge, we're pretty freaking spoiled. The fact that these kids get to grow up with that guy as their captain and just the way that he performs, I'm kind of jealous. Like, I wish I could be a little kid watching Aaron Judge because it has to be so magical. Like, I got Derek Jeter, but Aaron Judge is a different type of player. So
yeah, and most definitely. And we know full well we're watching a future Hall of Famer. First ballot, I would also say. But yeah, and I'm very glad that he's treating spring training the way we all know they should be using spring training. And yes, because we need him healthy, we need him strong, and as you mentioned before we hopped on, Ciarra, and it's so true, he's looking good in the field for sure. And so he's doing things in the field that are especially given the few, like that the miss that'll live in infamy from the World Series. But I don't want him like at the plate trying to swing, for the fences. I would much rather have him strike out, take a base on balls, and be very low key there. So I'm with you on that for sure. And I want to take a minute to say hi to everyone that's been in the chat. So let me just do roll call here real fast. John the Beagle Dad, Sean, Lori. And we got FJ, we got Lou, and we have Jordan Thaler who says crazy weather in Chicago, Lamb, Ciarra, and the list goes on and on here. So thank you all for being here. So now we talked about the guys we have. Let's talk about the prospects for a bit. That's also a hot topic. So there's we know that Stroman is in the rotation. We know that there's mixed feelings about that, but there's still room. So you want some milk with that cookie, Ciarra?
Yeah. So obviously, Cookie Carrasco, he's 37 years old. We've seen him in the major leagues. He was on Cleveland last year. Probably didn't have the greatest season, but he looks really good in spring training right now. And take that with a grain of salt because it's spring training, right? Like it's so funny. I feel like we pick and choose who we're like, oh, it's just spring training. And other people were like, it's spring training. Get it together. What are you doing? But Cookie looks good. And I know that there's going to be this argument of Will Warren versus Cookie Carrasco. And while Will Warren looks way better than I ever expected the guy to look, right? Last year, we saw how terribly he performed. he is being compared to like a Clark Schmidt type of pitcher right now. The difference is Cookie Carrasco is a veteran. So you know what you're going to get out of him most likely. Will Warren is still a wild card, and that's where I think that whole it's spring training, we gotta take it with a grain of salt comes into play. I could see the rotation being Fried, Rodon, Schmidt, Stroman, Cookie. Not because I don't want Warren, but because I just think that that's what the Yankees will do. I've been a fan long enough that I feel like I have a good feel of how they operate. Because you got to think the same people have been in charge forever. It's not like there's been a change in the front office really. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cookie is that fifth starter. And Will Warren will be called up if we need him because again, you know, Clark Schmidt looks okay right now, but we don't know what's going on with his back either. He looked pretty good when he was throwing the other day. He looked good in his outing, but anything can happen. So who knows? At some point, it could be Cookie and Warren in that rotation. But either way, regardless of how people feel about it, you guys are stuck with Stroman. He is in the rotation. Like that's all there is to it.
And I'm just going, and I agree with everything you just said. I'm a Warren enthusiast. I have to say, you know, all your points taken. But he has looked really good during spring training, and again, small sample size, but you know, and he's trying to make the roster. I get all that, but I think I saw a different Warren during spring training than you know what your reasons are, you know, are stating that, you know, from the past that are absolutely accurate. So I wouldn't be mad at it being Warren whatsoever, but I also get what you're saying about Cookie. And I like a Cookie. I am not anti-Cookie whatsoever. And you know, you're going to get me on the veteran versus, you know, newbie argument, except for the fact that newbies are younger, and maybe a bit more less likely for the injury side of things. But also there's plenty of prospects that have had injuries before they even make it to the show. So I can't even really say that. Yeah, and I like his personality. I think Carrasco Cookie, you know, I don't know him, but I feel like I could call him Cookie. You know, I think he would bring good energy to the clubhouse and be a good, you know, mentor type pitcher and in absence of Cole. So I wouldn't be mad at it. So, but you know, to your point about Stroman, you're absolutely right. You know, he Stroman shouldn't go, man, and he's not going. So everybody has to get over that. And look, he's looked really good. And I think that his head is on, you know, on his shoulders correctly. He is saying things in his interviews about, look, I know who I am and I know the kind of pitcher I am, and I am mentally strong about it. And I've said from the beginning that I'm a starter because I'm the kind of starter that's needed. And you know, to your point earlier, Sean, I believe it was about, you know, about eating up innings. Stroman's an inning eater like Carrasco is. You know, they're cut from the same cloth in that way, and we need that. And you know, to have a guy that could go at least five into the game, you know, I think if Stroman does the things and his location and his command is better than we saw last year, then you know, some people are going to be eating humble pie about him. And
yeah, I agree. And you mentioned him having his head on his shoulders, correct? Right. And I want to touch on that for a minute because I know like everyone is waiting with bated breath for him to say the wrong thing. And I absolutely hate that that's the way that we're going about this. You know, the guy, I feel like since he's joined the Yankees last season, he's not said one thing incorrectly. He's not done anything insane. Like everything that Stroman does, the fans, the media, like they dissect it. Like it bothers me so much. I get that when he left the Mets, there was a falling out and he said some things, right? But that was one organization. He didn't do that to Toronto. He didn't do that to Chicago, and he hasn't done it to the Yankees. And I get that, like, he fought with Yankees fans back in the day online, but like, he was on a rival team, and people have always kind of said outlandish things to Marcus Stroman. And I get he's a professional baseball player. Maybe he shouldn't have fed into it, but who freaking cares, right? The guy shows up, he puts in the work, he does what he has to do. He sat his ass on the bench during the World Series and did not complain about it one time. And you know damn well his family said something to him like, you're on the roster, but you're not pitching. You don't think that they gave him a hard time? And the guy never said anything. Not to the media, not on Twitter, not on Instagram, nothing. Okay. Also, you know, he showed up to spring training late, right? But he was still on time. Turns out, not only was he spending time with his family, but he had a home that got affected by the wildfires in California. And he is raising money for people who lost their homes in California. How can you hate somebody like that? How can you hate somebody who's going out of their way to raise money for other people who are less fortunate than him? Like, and that's why I love him so much, because he did the same thing in Chicago. He did so much for the inner city youth here. Like, I love players like that who realize that they have a platform and that there are other things that are bigger than them and their freaking ability to throw a baseball. I just had to say that.
Yes, and this is where my standard line will come in about character matters in this game. And if you're going to wear the pinstripes, you have to have character. If you don't have the character and you have all the rest, I'm not mentioning any names, then you know what? You shouldn't be here long, and you probably won't be here long. And so, yes, it's just he's really the full package. And I know the bottom line is seeing the performance. And I do think we're going to have a better Stroman, the one that we were expecting we didn't quite get his first season with us. I think we'll see it this time around. And so maybe it's a little bit of, okay, wow, that was scary. They were trying to put me in the pen. No, that's scary. I'm gonna show them. I'm hoping there'll be a little bit of that factoring in here too. So Ciarra, you and I have already been a little bit in disagreement about Warren versus Carrasco, but I caved. I get it. Here comes the next one. So Ben Rice has had an excellent spring training. It's the Ben Rice that we saw, you know, that lightning in the bottle that we saw during spring training. And you know, also just doing all the things right and knowing that he's a two-way player cannot hurt. You know, and so he still has the muscle memory for both positions at this point. I am not opposed whatsoever for Rice making the 26th man. And let me just pause to say, Raziel, holy moly, thank you so much. And here's his comment. Cash couldn't find anyone to take Stro. Turns out we need him. Yeah, that's right. Ciarra plus Lynn equals elite. Oh, you're the best. My MVPs of Yankee Podcaster, hands down. Slap the like. Oh, Raziel, thank you so much. That means a lot. That definitely means a lot. Those words more than anything mean a lot. So thank you. So go ahead. I know you have a counterpoint.
Well, first of all, thank you, Raziel. You're amazing. Shout out to you for being here and for the super chat. Love that. Also, Ben Rice. Okay, first of all, the guy, he put on muscle in the offseason. You could see it. And when he first showed up to spring training, there was definitely that little bit of like figuring it out. And I said the same thing about Stanton last year when he took the weight off. Like there was definitely an adjustment there. But he has figured it out. However, Ben Rice, the only reason I do not think he should be on the 26-man roster, I believe that he needs to play every day. And in order for him to play every day and get the reps every day, he needs to be in AAA. AAA, he will get the reps in the rotation between first and catcher. And that's what he needs. I think Ascara will be our backup. And I also think Ascara has played very well. And I think he'll be our backup to Austin Wells. I also think that we have more first base depth on our 26-man roster than what most people are thinking we do. So if we take a deep dive into it, right? Goldie is our everyday first baseman. right? We have Cody Bellinger who could play the outfield and first base if they need to rotate anybody. We have Oswaldo Cabrera, who, let's say, for argument's sake, he is our opening day third baseman and Peraza's on the bench. If Peraza needs to get a rep at third and Goldie needs a day off, you can move Cabrera to first base, right? Or my DH for opening day, Dominic Smith, can also play first base. So I think we have a lot of options for first base. And it's best for Ben Rice and his development to stay in AAA because next year, Goldie is just a stopgap. I do not see him being on this team in 2026 unless he has like an MVP, like blows us out of the water type of performance. Then I think that'll be Ben Rice's time to shine is in 2026.
Okay. So, and there's nothing you say that I ever really disagree with. I get all of that. If the Yankees stick with Wells being leadoff, and if I'm presuming, which is a little safer than assuming, if I'm presuming that the leadoff spot will go to the backup catcher, who would be better at leadoff, Rice or Ciarra?
See, I think that's hard to say because we haven't really seen either one of them do it, right?
Yeah.
Rice has done it once or twice in spring training. Also, listen, but Austin Wells has proven me wrong. It was like the day after I said he shouldn't be leadoff that he was just kind of like FU and has looked phenomenal. I still don't like it, right? And I wouldn't like it if it was a Ciarra or Ben Rice either. But that's a whole nother conversation. I am all for J-Dom being a leadoff. But that's it. Like I said, that's a different conversation. I think the days that Austin Wells is off, that the lineup, that there's a different leadoff hitter. I don't know if it would be a Ciarra. I don't know what they would do. I love a consistent lineup construction. I always have. That was one of my biggest issues with Boone last season and the front office is why are we, rotating leadoff hitters? It's hurting us. So I don't really have an answer for that question, I guess. I'm just saying a lot of words. I
guess it was an unfair question. And I also want to be clear that I'm an Ciarra fan. It's an embarrassment of riches, actually, to have two, ostensibly backup catchers, and actually three. But like you say to me all the time, who remembers that that third catcher even exists? What's his name? Jack.
Poor Alex Jackson. He was just thrown in with a trade with Fernando Cruz, and they're like, here you go.
No, I am all good with Ciarra, being the backup catcher, and I would love to have Rice on the bench for Goldie. But to your point, we're going to get to it fast. Is we have bench pieces galore, but so I get your point there. So let's go around the horn next and talk about who's going to be on third. Let's start with that. Interestingly enough, you're going to see in today's lineup for the game, let me throw it up here real fast, that look at who's on first base. No one except Oswald Cabrera. So Waldo's at first, which was a surprise to me. And we know that both Waldo and Peraza are in the conversation, along with DJ, who's not really in the conversation, but he's always mentioned among them, for third base. So to me, it was a little bit of surprise that Cabrera is doing first base. He's done it before, but just wondering of the timing of this. So what do you say about Peraza versus Waldo? Let's focus on third, I guess, for now, but what's going on with first? I'm curious.
Well, let me just start by saying one of the reasons I love Oswaldo Cabrera, and I've said this 100 times, is he's the guy that I want on my team at any level just because of the type of teammate he is. The guy shows up to every game, every practice with multiple gloves, right? He is willing to go where he is needed. He's willing to put in the work and learn all the positions. That is the type of player that I want. And that's the type of player that I think these kids who are coming up through these tournament systems and all these crazy things that these kids do now to play baseball, that is the guy that you should look up to is Oswaldo Cabrera, in my personal opinion. Also, shout out to Waldo. He just got engaged. Super cute. Very happy for him. Hoping that brings him all the powers he needs this season. But with that being said, I think that Waldo is your starting third baseman. And let me back it up. I want Peraza at third base. I think Peraza has the better glove at third specifically. However, they both have 30 at bats under the belts right now in spring training, and Waldo's numbers are just a little bit better. And because he's been on with us in the major leagues a little bit more, the team has a little. I think the team has a little bit more trust in him, and I think Peraza will be on our bench to start. The whole conversation about DJ, look, I don't know if Aaron Judge needs to go kick him in the calf or something to ensure he gets on the IL, but it makes more sense for me with what's going on with DJ for him to start the season on the IL. It doesn't make sense for him to even take up a spot when we know he's injured and he's had no reps. You know what I mean? So let's say he's on the roster opening day. Are we just going to throw him out there even though he had one rep in spring training before he went down with a calf issue? Like at this point, it's not meant to be. And that's no hate to DJ LeMahieu. Back when we traded for him, it was a great trade. 2019 DJ was amazing for us. Mm-hmm. Here we are in 2025. DJ has not been the same player in 3 seasons. It's time to move on. Like I don't care what they have to do. Josh Donaldson him, Aaron Hicks him, Jacoby Ellsbury him. I don't care what you do at this point. Take him out back and get rid of him. Like it should not be our problem at this point.
And I think I agree and have agreed on that. And to your point earlier about Belly, we're going to see 2019 Belly this season. We are most definitely done with 2019 DJ. And so agreed on all your points there with him. Will they do it? I don't know. Them with the eating money thing, they're already eating so many monies from other guys that, they just didn't or couldn't hold on to. So, so like Sean is saying, a third base wild card, Vivas Velasquez or Peraza Cabrera platoon. So my thing with Squid Ink is he really absent of a couple of good catches, and I really have no startling memory of spring training of him. I was confused when they brought him back, and Jorbit. I also, I don't know that there's a comparison at all between Vivas Velasquez versus Peraza Cabrera. What do you think, Laura?
Jorbit's playing third on the split squad today, right? I think that's what I saw.
Oh, let me put it back up.
Yeah, he's playing third in the away game. Okay. I don't think Squid and Jorbit are even in the conversation at this point. I know going into spring training, they threw Jorbit's name in there, but it was really always between DJ and Oswald. It really is just like when Volpe was coming up and he won shortstop over Peraza. This is again Oswald Peraza's position to lose, right? Like he has to get out of his own head and figure this out because this is his position to lose. I think it's more likely to be a platoon between Waldo and Oswald, with Waldo being the opening day starter. But that's just how I feel about it.
I think that's right. And Lori had a comment up earlier that I'm probably not going to be able to find fast enough that, that Cabrera should be the bench piece. He's our utility guy. And I get that too. And so, look, we platoon the hell out of every other position lately, it seems. So why not this? And I'd be absolutely fine with that. My thing is, like you said, the numbers don't lie. And it was surprising to see that and to hear that Cabrera's numbers are better until I really think about the fact that Peraza is really a one-sided player. He's really not performing at the plate. And and hasn't really proven himself to be somebody you could rely on at the plate, but his defense keeps him in the conversation. I see that Sunil has joined and Dev has joined, so and Damien's here as well. So great to see you guys, Yeah. And FJ said something earlier that I thought was interesting. Yanks are looking into a Dylan Cease trade
Listen,
with Jason.
listen. The Yankees gave me so much hope last offseason that we were getting Dylan Cease just for him to go to San Diego. Okay. And right now, Cease is linked to multiple teams. I don't want to get my hopes up again because I'm a Dylan Cease girl. Okay. I love Dylan Cease. I wanted him on this freaking team last year. I was screaming it from the rooftops. So I refuse to get my hopes up again until it happens because I don't care what anyone else says. Dylan Cease is a freaking great pitcher. CT cards, you're kind of ruining my moment right now.
Oh,
No, Michael King
hello, good to see you.
Michael King, phenomenal pitcher. He, he is. I'm so happy with how he's doing as a starter. With that being said, he just signed a 2-year extension with San Diego. Dylan Cease was a trade piece that I don't think ever planned on keeping long term. Let's not forget Dylan Cease also threw a no-hitter last season. Like, I know everyone thinks about the guy like he was on the White Sox, whatever. The White Sox are a trash organization. They don't know how to do anything properly. The guy was never going to win anything there, right? Like, he was just stuck. He was the only player there with Luis Robert Jr. Like, now he's in San Diego. He's showing us what he can do. If the Yankees could go get him, I would take him any day of the week. He's one of my favorite pitchers in the league. But I don't want to get my hopes up because last year I got my heart broken when he went to San Diego.
Look, there are a few pitchers that I think they should turn down at this point. First of all, but yeah, Cease has been in the conversation a lot and has been unattainable. So I wouldn't be mad at it myself. And Sean is saying
that is not the same thing. Okay, that is not the same thing, Sean Browning. I get what you're saying, but Herman is an alcoholic who was very bad for our clubhouse. Perfect game aside, terrible person, right? Like you're throwing temper tantrums in the nap room, which first of all, they have a freaking nap room. Like, come on, can I get a nap room? Is my boss watching this? Can I get a nap room at work?
Seriously.
Because I could use one. Dylan Cease is not a terrible person like Domingo Herman. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I don't think he was a domestic violence kind of guy, like Herman was. But I digress further. So the last two hot topics are yours, Ciarra. So let's talk about. And I'm prejudiced by saying that, so sorry, but talk to us about Dom Smith.
Yeah, so I'm calling it now. Opening day DH, Dominic Smith. And the reason I say that is I'm going to go back to Ben Rice. Ben Rice needs to play where he can play every day. I saw the comment saying, he's 26 years old. I get that. But if we're not going to play him every day at the major league level, we're not helping him, right? Like even if we're looking at trading the guy somewhere down the line, him sitting on the bench isn't helping anybody. I think he needs to play in AAA. And when we need him and we're ready to play him, then we bring him up because I'm not knocking the guy. I don't think he's doing a bad job. But also, Dom Smith, he looks good in spring training. He's a veteran. And let's face it, the Yankees are very much like me where they like older men. So that is probably who they're looking at. He with him being a veteran, like you can look at his numbers previous seasons, you know what you're getting out of him. They're going to be productive at bats. He played in the MLB last season. He was on the Red Sox. He was productive. So I think 11 days from now, Dom Smith will be your starting DH. I don't know where he falls in the lineup, but he will be our starting DH.
And you got the FJ stamp of approval on that.
Love it.
Yeah. So I'd love to see it. I've liked everything I've seen from him, and I like his persona. I think he's a good energy kind of guy. Not mad about that at all. And that bench is getting tight, but I wouldn't mind him sitting on it, and just getting up, in the lineup, in the rotation, in the lineup like that. So, lineup
wherever he's going.
Player, Sunday, Monday. Yeah. Okay. Now it's not an imposter. It's me, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, soothe my worries, Ciarra. Why is Dominguez going to be okay?
Listen, did you guys see Altuve in left field the other day? So I just want to throw it out there that Jason Dominguez isn't the only one who's struggling to learn left field. With that being said, I know there's been some weird plays, but he's also looked really good. I don't see the need for Dominguez to run full force into a wall in a spring training game. Like, we don't need him injured. We don't have left field depth. Like, we have 4 outfielders right now, right? We already sent Pereira packing back to minor leagues. So we have 4 outfielders. We have Grisham on the bench, Belly, Judge, and Dominguez. He doesn't need to get hurt. So also his at-bats have been way more productive. He hit a triple yesterday, which not only shows his power, but the guy can run. We haven't had people who can run in so long. And now we have Jazz, Volpe, Belly, Peraza, Waldo. Like, they can all run. And honestly, I'm so looking forward to see what we do on the bases this season. I know spring training is like a hot mess, but it's spring training. I don't, whatever. Dominguez is going to be just fine. And for the media who's pushing this narrative that he's not, go away. Go find something better to do, because you know what you're doing. You're clickbaiting, and not in a fun clickbaity, like, let's have a conversation type of way. Like, you know that this kid is already getting beat up left and right. Just like Stroman, right? This kid's already taken a beating. All the other fan bases love to talk crap about him. Even though he's only 22, they act like the guy's 30. The play the other day where it was a ground rule double, and there was video circulating like about how Dominguez didn't try to get it, blah, blah, blah. He was like 20 feet away from the ball. Okay. He was never going to get there. And it was a ground rule double. Like, it bounced into the stand. So even if he was there, like, it didn't make a difference. And it looked like a foul ball. So Dominguez will be fine. His bat looks good. I'm not worried about him. The kid will be all right.
I have no counterpoint to that, because I would love it. I want it. I need it. And I'm, want him to be both sides of a player. And here's Sean saying, wait, up here. You're right, Sean, because that's who we are. We are two-faced fans. We're complaining about the old team, and we're complaining about all these new kids. It's what we do, hashtag fickle. That's who we are. But can't say you're wrong about that. And Raziel's doubling down on you that Martian will be fine. I want to see Martian, in the conversation, maybe not this coming season, but next season for MVP. He has that in him. So I'm rooting for him. That's for sure. So you're mentioning a lot of guys already, like on the 26 man, that are taking up bench positions, right? But let's pivot to that kind of pivots us to, let's do a count. So far on the bench, we have counting LeMahieu. We have 5, LeMahieu, Grisham. We have 5 of our 26 man on the bench right now.
We should have 4. So we should have 13 pitchers and 4 guys on the bench. If they're not ILing DJ, which is stupid, right? Like, just start the season with Stanton, DJ, Cole, Heel on the IL. Just get it over with. Just throw them on there and move on. I mean, obviously Cole, but like, throw the other 3 on and move on for right now. Hopefully Stanton will be back, May. That they're saying Memorial Day, and I would take it. But honestly, I'm also okay if Stanton doesn't come back until October when we actually need him. Like, be 100%. Not that I don't want him to play. Like, we love Stanton here. But if you need to take more time to be 100%, then do that. I want Stantober, okay? I need Big G to be ready in October, so I don't care about March through September. We need you in October. That's what matters to me. With that being said, if they do not IL DJ because they're stupid, because they do dumb things, to me, I think we're looking at DJ, Dom Smith. I guess there is 5. I can't count. DJ, Dom Smith, Grisham, Peraza, and Ascara. Right.
Okay. So I love the fact that this is going to be a permanent record that I could do math sometimes. So I'm just putting that out there for my family. I'm going to play this for them. So I counted right, everybody. Be proud of me. So let's now pivot. Let's pivot to the prospects, because it's timely to talk about last night's spring breakout, where the Orioles ended up walking it off, whatevs. But, we have some conversations here about some players that really did the thing last night, starting with Carlos LaGrange, who got the starting spot. And his pitching touched triple digits, and he retired 11 in a row. And I think he went 3 innings. So, he looked really great. Great outing for LaGrange. Now, I don't know how old he is. I believe he's double A. You could correct me on that if I'm wrong. But he's a pitcher to look out for.
Yeah, I mean, a young kid touching 100 multiple times, like that's insane to me. First of all, it's insane to me that any human on earth can throw that fast. But I don't understand that. He looked really good, and for him to retire 11 players in a row, like that's a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing in a few years. The Yankees do a really good job with pitching. Like, I just want to say that. Like, I know in the last draft, I think our first 7 picks were pitchers. We do a good job at drafting and developing pitchers, whether it's to bring them up to the big leagues or to trade them at some point. But that is our bread and butter at this point.
What worries me with the 3-digit thing is I don't want to baby our prospects, but at the same time, if I hear one more Tommy John story, whether it's from a prospect or somebody up in the show, it's just, I hope that they're not indoctrinating them with that as a benchmark. It's great to talk about. It's remarkable. It shows, wow, this kid's really got something. I get all that, but I just worry. It makes me worry about the injuries, because when you look across the majors, it's literally an epidemic. If this was contagious, which it's not, this is an epidemic across the league. And this year is not, this goes back a few years now. It's just something I'm a little bit worried about. I want to protect this kid, because I think he's going to be really good for us, and who knows when. But that's what spring breakout's all about, is to, and I know there must have been scouts galore in the crowd, but and then I also want to bring up George Lombard Jr. And I know that I'm 2-3 years early to be on the George Lombard Jr. bandwagon, but he had put out some serious numbers last night, judge type numbers. So exit velos of 108, 104, going for as far as 370 and 414. Now that's something that, I'm going to say, keep doing that. Keep swinging that bat hard like that. So I'm being a little bit a little bit of a hypocrite there based on what I just said about the pitching, but I wish he was a little bit older and a little bit more experienced, because I want that now.
Yeah, I mean, what is Lombard's 19?
Yeah.
He looks really good, and I think if he keeps developing the way that he is, he's a kid that we'll definitely need to look out for in the future. I know that the Yankees prospects aren't on anyone's radar right now other than ours, but he's one of those guys that's going to come up and just I think blow people out of the water. Not to mention, he is a coach's kid, so he's been around the system. He knows how this works, right? He knows what he has to do. And he's one of those guys who's going to show up and put the work in because he's been around it for so long. He's not just going to wait for the opportunity to come to him. So I'm excited to see Lombard in the future. Obviously, we won't see him anytime soon, but that's okay. We can keep watching him through the system and see how he develops, right? I also wanted to touch on the whole Tommy John thing. Unfortunately, I think we're in a time in baseball where Tommy John's is going to be it's going to be more common than uncommon at this point. And it sucks, right? It's very frustrating. I saw a comment, I don't know who it was. I think it was Raziel, who said the expectation to be 101 every time is silly, because this is $1 million or billion-dollar organization, and longevity should obviously be your goal. And that's why I'm going to bring it back to Marcus Stroman. Old school pitchers like Marcus Stroman, who is a pitcher and not a thrower, who is a ground ball pitcher who has 6 pitches, that is so rare now. Now you're just getting gas throwers, right? Like, it's hard to prevent Tommy John when you have flamethrowers like that. And it's the unfortunate reality to the situation. That coupled with, and I this is a hill that I'm willing to die on. I think the pitch clock has also caused part of this elbow epidemic because you're rushing the mechanics. I mean, look at a guy like Nestor Cortez. He had to stop doing all the things he was doing to figure out how to pitch within 20 seconds. And we saw a different Cortez from 23 to 24, and even from like 22 to 23. Like, it was a different guy.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to take that into consideration too.
Wow, that made my jaw drop. That's an excellent point. The pitch clock, some took to it right away. And I guess that's a little bit of hope for, the guys coming up from the farm is, they've already had practice enough with it. So that's on their side, but absolutely for the guys that were already up and up for a while. Yeah, I think that's such an excellent point to make about it. I just also just going around and reading the articles, sometimes some that I often, wish I didn't read. Some other things I heard about the prospects is, so for one thing, here's a good one. Ben Hess put on a clinic last night, in the breakout. He was, he's, I think, our number 4 prospect. And he had a really good outing. And so there's a quote from the Yankees director of pitching, Sam Brend, spelled like friend, so I'm saying Brend, that his ceiling's going to be top of the rotation starter. So, he's obviously saying this is a Cole Fried kind of guy. That he's somebody that's going to be your future number 1 and number 2. So that's exciting. So we should all be keeping our eye on Ben Hess. I believe he's in AA, has spent most of his time there, but it would be really nice if he gets a promotion during the season, because we might need him later on. I'm not hexing anything. I'm not putting anything out to the universe about that. But if he keeps doing that thing, I hope that they're, keep an eye on AAA for him. And then another one not to sleep on, and this is the MLB.com article I liked. It was, don't sleep on Eric Reiselman. He was our number 23rd prospect, and he's a right-handed pitcher. So he missed the first 2 years as a pro. So, but he returned last year to post a 1.16 ERA. And so, and he had an average. He had a 41% strikeout rate and 31 appearances between all 3 levels last season, most of his time in AA. So, riding fastball that touches 99, a tight low 80s slider, and a promising changeup with similar velocity. So remember that name if you can say it, Eric Reiselman. So it was nice to see that. You know what wasn't nice? That I read an article called 9 Players Who May Make It to the Show. I'm like, oh, great. I wonder which one they're going to choose from the Yankees. None of the 9 were listed. You know what team had multiples? The Red Sox. And there was I think another with multiples. But Red Sox just obviously struck out to me. So that's what I'm going to remember. Let me just say, I think we're heading back to that rivalry that hasn't been for a few seasons, because they've been cooking with their acquisitions and now they're cooking with their prospects. It's time to, keep a side eye on the Red Sox for sure. So we didn't make the 9, and we also didn't make the parentheses of also of note, no Yankee there either. So I won't mention the name of the guy who wrote that article, because I don't want to be responsible for the hate mail. But What does that tell you about, or does it tell us anything about our farm versus other farms?
Um, well, Boston has had a good farm for a few years now, and it's been in the conversation. Everybody in MLB is looking at Roman Anthony when he's coming up. That kid is going to be a star. I'm surprised that there wasn't more mention of the Tigers though, because they were just named the number one farm system for 2025. It would have been the Cubs, I think, if they hadn't made the trade for Kyle Tucker with the Astros. So I think that gave the Tigers the edge. So it'll be interesting to see what comes in the next few seasons with the Tigers, because they're a young team in general at this point. So it'll be curious. I'm curious to see how their prospects pan out. With that being said, the Yankees farm system has, the past few years, it hasn't been up there. It moved up this last season to, I think we're 18th now instead of like 30th. So we're getting better. And I think we'll continue to improve. As far as like the pitchers that you mentioned, they all looked great last night. Unfortunately, we lost, but it's a spring breakout game. It was more for fun and to showcase your skills. It's not anything like crazy. Again, I'm going to go back to my comment. I think the Yankees do a great job at drafting pitchers and the development with pitchers. And in the years to come, I think all the work that they're putting into that, we'll see that at the major league level.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, well, first of all, Ciarra, what did you have your eye on from the breakout game or in general?
The most interesting thing to me, and it's gonna sound so stupid, was Spencer Jones had a weird game. Okay, the guy got hit twice at the plate. The wind was blowing yesterday. He had a weird, like, it should have been a fly out, ended up being a double. I was reading that he had a bet going with one of the guys from the Orioles who he was teammates with at Vanderbilt, and Jones lost, so he has to buy the guy dinner. I thought that was super cute because they're keeping it fun and lighthearted, because at the end of the day, this is still a kid's game, right? Like, I know we get very serious watching, and we're very into it, as we should be, but it is still a kid's game at the end of the day. So the fact that they can still keep it fun and lighthearted and have like that that rivalry, like the competition, but keep it fun, like, and not make it serious.
Yeah.
I appreciate seeing things like that.
Yeah, I really look forward to the time when those four guys from Vandy are up in the show, and one's on base, the other one's getting ready to like throw the second to get them out, and they're having a little conversation about Vandy stuff. I loved that, and you're absolutely right. It was a feel good part of the breakout game last night. And so while we're on the prospects theme, and I'm not so good right now with the status of Somerset versus, Scranton and so forth. But thinking about the ones that won't make the show, some of which we mentioned, like Ben Rice. And I, Chad, want to hear from you too, is like, who do you think are going to be our, high attendees on the taxi squad?
So the guy that I think we'll end up seeing eventually, because he's running out of options at this point, is Pereira. I know they just sent him packing back to minor leagues, which was upsetting for me because he's the guy I wanted to see this season. I do think we'll see him again at some point. And the guy that I don't think we'll see, but I'm really liking right now, is Ishmael Munguia. He just kind of looks as a random prospect, like he looks really good to me. Same with Michael Vargas, but I think he wears number 25, so that might be a little biased for me. Other than that, I don't really know. I think we'll see Rice in the postseason. I don't know if we'll see him before then. I guess it all depends on injuries and how the platoon of Waldo and Peraza go, right?
Yeah. And, Sean's saying Vivas. Warren, I think, is an obvious. I think he would be the next pitcher up, or the first pitcher up. Hopefully he's not needed. And then Pereira. Why do I think that Pereira had an injury during spring training? Am I confused as usual?
He was injured last season.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, and Sean's saying that Mangu is playing like Mongo. I don't know what that means. You?
I don't either, but I'm
Sean,
assuming
I
he's
wish you
talking
could come
about.
off mic and tell us.
I'm assuming he's talking about Monguia. Oh my god, I know I'm butchering this guy's name, but like, I just have love. I really enjoyed watching him play in the spring. Like, he's just, yeah.
Okay, Sunil, I'll put this dad joke up. Yeah, so and what a story behind Ascara. Working his way, not giving up on his dream, but being an Uber driver. So yeah, no, he's past those days, Sunil, but I gave you your moment in the sun with the
Yeah.
post there.
I mean, if you think about it, he's kind of old for a prospect, right? He's like
Yeah,
29 years old, and they don't pay you anything in the minor leagues. Like, you don't. These guys are like rooming with like 5, 6, 7 other guys. Like, it's actually kind of sad, especially since it's hard to hold a regular job and be a minor league baseball player. So the fact that he hasn't given up yet and is finding a way to make this work, like, I will always root for a guy like that at the end of the
absolutely.
day.
Absolutely. Okay, Ascara, not Rice. I'm full on board. Forget everything I said at the top of the show. Um, all right. So, as we said last week, it's Women's History Month, and for us that means Women in Baseball Month. And so I just want to Ciara and I just want to spend a couple of minutes shouting out some women that deserve some spotlighting here. So I want to talk to you about this lady right here. Her name is Dorothy Dottie Ferguson Key. And yes, you might think, oh, there was a Dottie and a woman in the League of Their Own movie that I saw. This is the same Dottie, played a different position. But yeah, she's one of the OGs of the All American Girls Professional Baseball League at its start in 1945. And she was in the AAGPBL from 1945 to 1954. She's in the National Women's Baseball Hall of Fame. She was with the Rockford Peaches, again, the movie, for most of her career, and 1 year with the Peoria, sorry, Illinois, um, uh, sorry, Ciara, um, Red Wings. And I got to dig in a little deeper about why that break in the middle of her career with the Red Wings. That might be a little controversial. I'm going to look into that. She's a four-time championship team player, 1945 and 1948 through the 50s, and so she was a right fielder, actually, not a catcher. And she's also in Cooperstown, enshrined in the exhibit there for the AAGPBL. So that is Dorothy Dottie Ferguson Key. And next is we're flashing forward to 2025. Yeah, that's where we are. So Ciara, take it away.
Yeah. So on my left, I don't know if it's your guys' left or not. On my left, we have Grace. We have Grace Boyce. In 2024, she joined the Athletics, wherever they're at right now, Sacramento. I think that's where they're at right now. Yeah, as the club's player development analyst. And this was after she was with the Tigers for a season as an analytics associate. So shout out to her. Listen, being a female who talks about sports is hard in general. Like, I won't even get into that whole conversation, but to be a female who works in the front office of a Major League Baseball team, I can't imagine how hard that has to be. Because regardless of what people think in 2025, we still have to prove ourselves day in and day out that we know what we're talking about and that we belong in this field. So shout out to my girl, Grace. And then that brings us to Rachel Folden. I saved her for last because she's in Chicago, like me. I mean, technically she's in Iowa, but she's in the Cubs organization. So Rachel has been with the Cubs for a while now. She joined in 2019, and she's moved her way up through the rankings since then. And she was just recently promoted to the AAA hitting coach. So Rachel knows what she's doing. Like, she started at the bottom, like down in single A, and now she's up in AAA with the Iowa Cubs. I love it. Like, I hope there are little girls out there watching what these women are doing and realizing that there is a place for them. when it comes to working in Major League Baseball, working in sports. It is, like Lynn said, it is Women's History Month. So shout out to these ladies. I know that they work their asses off to get to where they're at. And I don't know them personally, but I'm very proud of them.
I am too, because and Raziel, I'm proud of you for saying this. We need to see women's baseball come back, not softball, but actual baseball. I'd watch. So I'll try. I'll try to remember to bring the link to or the Twitter accounts for the Major League women's league that is formed. So it is making its way, Raziel, and so glad that you put that out there. There has been an organization formed especially for that purpose, and I encourage everyone to follow the International Women's Baseball Center. They're on Twitter at IWBC four letter number 4 me on Twitter. They're also on Facebook, and they brought me to light about the International Women's Baseball League and the World Cup that takes place every summer. And so there is, leagues of women for country, by nation that compete every year. And there is a documentary. If you haven't seen it, it's available on Amazon Prime now, called See Her, Be Her. An outstanding documentary. Yes, you have to pay $1.99, but look, you can't even get a kernel of popcorn for that at the stadium. So it's definitely worth a watch. And so that's women in baseball. We're not going away. We're going to bring things. We're going to bring 1940s back up to the future, and see much more of it. But yeah, these women in the front offices and in the clubs, not that club, but in the baseball clubs, doing the things in the minors and the majors. And let's not forget, there was an umpire in spring training this year, a female umpire during spring training this year, behind home plate at one of the games. So so things are looking up. We just got to keep talking about it and make it and normalize it in the discussions, because it's not going away. So yep, that's right, Jordan. Thank you for the name, Jen Powell. Yep, absolutely. And yeah, so, and I'm sure there's definitely, Raziel, that there's Dominican women waiting to come up to the majors. Yeah, Big Mommy and Juanita Soto. Yes, let's bring them both. We'll take them. So, Ciarra, what are your last thoughts before we jump off?
I'm just ready for opening day. We're 11 days out. Also, has nothing to do with the Yankees, but one of my favorite players, Fernando Tatis Jr., got nailed in the head with a pitch the other day. Really hoping that he seems to be okay, but hoping like he actually is okay, because that's really scary. And he's one of the most fun people to watch in MLB, regardless of how people feel about him. So I'm just throwing that out there. But I'm ready for opening day. We're 11 days out. Tokyo series starts on Tuesday. I'm in 2 fantasy baseball leagues, so I will be paying attention to that very closely because I have a few guys playing. Shout out to the chat for being here again today. So grateful for all of you. And happy Women's History Month. Like, shout out to all the women doing their thing, and not in just baseball, but in sports in general.
That's right. And dare I say, shout out to podcasters like us, and being part of a group, Pinstripe Chronicles, who encouraged this podcast to happen. Yes, I'm looking at you, Uncle Tats. And there are more and more women podcasters in baseball for other teams. As of now, I think we're still the only female for the Yankees only podcast going out there. We're proud to be that, but welcome others for sure, because I think we need more of that. It all mixes into the whole aura of the thing. So as always, we have a reserved seat with you here on the upper deck. In fact, by now, chat, every single one of you has your name on a seat in the upper deck. We so appreciate you. Go out and have a great Sunday and have a great week while we're at it. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, and go Yankees!